second week of the year, second working week of the year. And today I'm just checking it's actually all gone live. It's been a few days since I've done it. So I've done it, went all northern then. It's been a few days since I've done the live. So I wanted to make sure it actually works because, you know, if you don't do something, you forget how to do it, right? Well, that's my experience. So today we're going to be talking about outreach. We're going to be talking about what's the best kind of outreach. But before we do, we're going to talk about the crazy weirdness. And I'm going to read to you some of the outreach I've got on LinkedIn so that you can really, I'm just making sure I'm actually live and it's working. There we go. Right. I'm going to read to you some of the weird outreach that I get on LinkedIn because some of it reads basically like a sycophant. Now, sycophant, if you've never heard it, it's people who are being unnaturally flattering to get an advantage. And this is weird in the way it happens on LinkedIn because it's so flipping strange. And I'm going to show you, no, I'm not going to show you because I don't want to shame people. But I'm going to read to you some of the messages I get. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. If you want to get success in the inbox, we'll talk about that. I'll talk about it, but I want to show you or explain to you what bad looks like. So listen to this one. Dean, I like your signal over noise stance and the focus on resonance over visibility. That shift from activity to outcomes really resonates. I help founders get clarity before AI through simple business AI readiness score. So your efforts turns into results would be great to connect. Now, why, as I read that, you probably thought, Dean, that doesn't sound that weird. Well, they get weirder. This weird complementary thing, somebody showing up in my DMs that I've never seen before, complimenting me about my messaging or about my messaging just is off. There's something as a human being that says this is off. Compliments that are good, nice things that are being said, but are oddly unspecific. They're vague. And AI does this, and salespeople do this when they're automating. And you can pick up on it, and I can pick up on it. And a lot of people are doing this thinking I'm being clever, but actually, once you start to see this pattern, you start to notice it. Like LinkedIn suggested me your profile, would love to connect and exchange insights. Why? Now these are connect messages. I'm going to show you some outreach messages in a minute and talk you through some outreach. And then I'm going to show you what good, or explain to you what good looks like. Right? Here's another one. I really like how direct you are about LinkedIn and social selling. What specifically do you like about me being direct about LinkedIn and social selling? Especially your focus on real conversations over vanity metrics would be great to stay connected and keep learning from your posts. I have never seen this person show up on any of my posts ever. Yeah, and I can tell you if I connect with some of these people, literally, the format is exactly the same. I'm impressed by your approach to winning clients on LinkedIn without pitching. I'd love to connect and learn from your expertise in social selling. Oddly complimentary, weirdly unspecific. Not Dean, I saw your post today about this issue and I'd been struggling with this issue, specific, naming it. I'd love to stay in touch and connect more. Yeah, here's another one. Your profile stood out to me. It would be great to connect. I spend most of my time helping UK-based companies navigate international structuring and overseas expansion. Yeah, let me see if I can find another one. let me see. And then I'm going to go to the DMs. So there's this weird pattern, basically, weird pattern of people literally just sending you these weird compliments that are almost like, change that gap, change that gap. And a lot of them are AI now. And of course, AI is not a human being. So AI is really good at doing generic personalization that we can smell a mile off. Let me show you some outreach, or let me talk about some outreach. So let's have a look here and go, right. This one here, turning... what stands out to me is the longevity and scale. 17 years in social selling, 200,000 professional... Like, literally, you can tell that this guy has just regurgitated excerpts from my profile. It doesn't read human. It doesn't feel human. It doesn't feel like a conversation. And this is a common thing. And people don't understand that when I'm not thinking about what matters to this person, people buy from people and they bypass it by thinking, how can I get as many messages out as possible and not think about what actually gets the best response? So what I want to do, I'm just going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to share my screen in a second about what actually gets results with outreach. And I'll give you a template structure that you can follow. Notice I said template structure. I didn't say a template message, because that is part of the problem. When you use a template message, you actually end up where people turn off and switch off. So template messages don't work. Yeah. And I know you'd love me to tell you there's a secret template message that you can follow, but there really isn't. The more personal you go, the more successful you'll be. So I always start at the beginning and go, let's say I did want to create a template message, I'd have to know what works first. And so I always approach it from, I've got to find out what works before I can do any form of templating in terms of I've got to fill in the blanks message. So first things first, when you send a message on LinkedIn, the person can actually see, look, this is the first line of the message. Yeah, line 1 of the message. The person can actually see the first chunk of words up to before there without opening the message. This is your biggest hurdle. On outreach, this is your biggest hurdle. If I can look at your message and go and guess that you're selling me something, right, I'm not going to open it. Think about it like this. Hi, Dean. Hope you are well. Nobody who knows me would say, hope you are well to me, because that's something you say to a stranger. And so often what people do is write emails on LinkedIn and then end up where, guess what? People ignore the message. So often people are going, messaging doesn't work, but actually they're doing weird email style, informal, impersonal messages. So the first order of business is somebody can see what you're saying in the first few lines before you actually even need to open it. In other words, you can give them a tip off to ignore your message if you write it in conventional writing wisdom. That's number 1. Yeah, number 1. So that's the first one. Number 2, the goal of a message is to get a reply. Yeah, the longer your message is, the less likely you've got to reply. Your job is not to prove anything in the messages. Your job is to get up a conversation and see where it goes. Often what happens with messages is people have the wrong idea. They think they have to convince or prove or qualify in messages. And that process of trying to qualify or prove actually ends up meaning you get ignored. Like, say for an example, I want to talk to the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer of a big tech company, right? My only priority is how can I get this guy on a call? Now, CRO of a tech company, or any decision maker for that matter, is not going to come on a call because I ask. Is not going to come on a call because we have something amazing. They are going to come on a call because of some potential benefit to either them as an individual or in their role, in their career, or for their organization. If I can't name that, if I can't lead with that, they don't care. They really don't care. And it's not because of anything bad you've done. They are getting, on average, 7 hit-ups a day. It's in their emails, it's in their phones, it's in their LinkedIn. They are only going to care about what's on my priority list. And if you can't name something on their priority list, forget it. So my job with this message is not really to convince him of a meeting in message 1. My job is just to see is this something you're working on? Is this a priority for you? It might have something for you. One of my best messages, in fact, is this an issue you're working on? Issue might have something that might be interesting for you. Can I share more details? Or is this a good time? I'm just trying to get the conversation going. I'm not trying to sell. I would argue you don't sell anything on LinkedIn. Or actually, no, I'll tell a lie. We're all selling the same thing on LinkedIn. A conversation. That's all we're selling, a conversation. And so that's it. If that conversation goes well, you get the opportunity to sell. The selling comes out of the conversation. If you try to sell the sale, they zone out. But if you start and sell a conversation, you actually get to the sales conversation, the second part of it. So messages that are short, messages that are not following in the normal pattern, not too long, under 4 sentences, and are clear, what do you want them to do? Yeah. None of this wishy-washy. It's like, if you want to speak to them about something, ask them. If you want to ask for a call, ask them. But the first message is to get a reply. And based off that reply, then you can go to a conversation and then you can propose a time to speak. It's almost impossible. It's a fluke if you can get a call booked off one message. It's a fluke. It rarely happens. And if it does, it's because you've been bang on the nose with something. Either something you've said has hit a nerve with them right there, right then, or you've shown you've researched their business. But if I just put lots of companies approach me and they have this issue, it's like, yeah, so what? But if you go, a lot of SaaS companies struggle with churn, especially in a flatlining economy like in the UK. Are you noticing this too? Has your churn gone up? That's a good conversation starter. Might be a bit too upfront if you've never interacted with them before, but it's that kind of thing. And the other thing is, I would say to you as well, is about messaging. Read them out loud. Literally read them out loud. Look somebody in the eye in the office and lock eyes with them, and you can't blink or flinch away, and read that message to them. And if it feels weird, it's probably the wrong message. So I always think about it and think about your LinkedIn messages, right? This weird praisey culture, oh, I'm impressed with this. Complimenting people does work, but only if the compliment's specific. If it's a weird one, like you seem to have a lot of expertise in social selling, okay. And what are you going to say? I love how you've helped 150,000 people. I immediately go, what are you after? Like, but if you said to me, Dean, your post really hit a nerve this morning, especially the part about this, and it was super specific, I'd probably reply to you. But if you say, loved your post this morning, especially I love your posts and all your insights, okay, it's a little weird. So it's this sycophantism that crops in, and I know why it crops in. Is that even a word, sycophantism? It crops in because we're trying to say something to everybody. And so we end up doing like high-level generic compliments. And it feels weird. To your prospects, it feels weird. The more specific you go, the better response rate you'll get. And as I look through my feed, a lot of the time, all I am seeing is people trying to play a volume game with messaging. And actually, that's because we've got used to it. But I can tell you now, we are in an era of hyper personalization. If you look when you go on an app now or any social media, the ads customized to you. Yeah. More people are actually saying they like the ads now on social media more than they did before because they're so relevant. And that's the beauty of AI in the sense of it can customize things in real time and make things more personal. But with outreach, for whatever reason, whether it's the AI is not there yet, whether it's we're not there yet thinking through, that's the other downside, thinking it through. And it might be a combination of both, that this personalization we're doing at the moment, often a lot of it feels forced, feels fake. And that undermines your outreach. But what is working is literally going, Gus, not looking for how you can personalize so that it's obvious that you've done your homework. You've looked at their business. You've really spent some time understanding them. And that's where I do a lot of video messaging because I get better responses. Like 22% is incredible. So if you want to get better at outreach, follow my tips here. Don't be the Mr. Smithers. And for those of you who don't know Mr. Smithers, The Simpsons, there's Mr. Burns, which is the evil entrepreneur. And he has this suck-up assistant who basically just does what he says and almost worships him and comes out with the most cheesiest complimentary lines that are so fake. And unfortunately for us, we're trying our best. But if you're not thinking about the prospect as a person, they become numbers. And when you treat somebody as a number, not willfully, you don't mean it in a derogatory way, but when you treat somebody as a number, don't expect them to behave any other way than another number. Yeah. What you give to people is what you get. And if you put some extra effort in, I know some of you salespeople will be looking at me and going, Dean, I've got a quota to hit. Okay, how many leads have you lost on LinkedIn because you've tried to cut corners by outreaching with automation or sending copy and paste template messages? Now, there is a place for those kind of template messages for things like, you're doing an email blast or a newsletter, or you're inviting somebody to something and it's like, you don't need to put, invite them to a webinar or something like that in a marketing message or email. But if you're trying to engage a person in conversation, if you want a conversation, you have to start a conversation. If you want people to just click and sign up, you can be a bit more mass market with that. But the best outreach right now is one-to-one. Like literally, if you're sending 100 messages a day with automation and AI, if you cut that down to 15 and went ultra personal, would it take more time? 100% yes, it would. But 15 messages, if I wrote those messages with you, if I was working with you, 15 messages would get you at least 3 meetings. Yeah, 3 meetings. Why? Because I've done it. It's what I do. Because that's the power of social selling. Social selling, right? If you approach LinkedIn outreach and you approach it like cold calling, where you go, I've got to just ring a load of people and I'll get a bite, or I've got to put an email cadence together, and if I send 7 emails and all that, one will hit and we'll play a numbers game. You can, I'm not saying you should, but you can play that kind of numbers game with email, and you can play that kind of numbers game with the phone, because you can dial 200 people a day or whatever number you can, or I don't know whether you auto dial or whatever. I don't do cold calling. But you can do that kind of volume game because you've got loads of emails, you've got loads of phone numbers. But on LinkedIn, there is a cap to how many messages you can send. And here's the bit many people miss. If you send a lot of messages and they don't get replies, there's this weird label that LinkedIn puts over your messages. And it says this user may be sending spam or malicious. I can't remember the exact terms, but if you want to see a screenshot, I can send it to you. And it obscures your message. So you send out 100 messages, all copy and paste or whatever. And then on the other side, the recipients who haven't responded basically let LinkedIn know by non-responsiveness that you're pummeling people with pitches. And so LinkedIn puts a display in front of your message saying it's harmful, basically. Do you want to open it? And a lot of people won't. And immediately that shreds the power of the message. So a lot of these shortcuts that, seem appealing, because who wants to go outbound one-to-one when you could plug a computer into it and do it automatically? Of course we want to do that. But if you want better outcomes, if you want better response rates, every time you kind of template in some way, every time you do it, you damage your conversion rate. So the gold standard is one-to-one, hyper-personalized, gold standard, hyper-personalized, completely unique. That's the gold standard of conversion. Every time you make it more template, more generic, more to appeal to a wider group of people, the more you do that, the more your conversion rate diminishes. And so I'll come full circle and I'll wrap up in a second. If you want the best conversion, if your outreach isn't working right now, go back to one-to-one. Go to the gold standard and then do some at the gold standard. And if that works and you've got that nailed, and then think about, how do I make this process a bit easier, a bit simpler, and take it one step down from the gold standard. Yeah. But what happens is people start with the worst standard of, I'm going to create a template. I don't know if it works. I don't know if this will actually deliver anything. Oh, and I'm going to automate it at scale, and hopefully something will come together. And I can tell you now, right, the only chance of you making that kind of process work is luck. It could happen, it might not. But on the whole, the stat is true, 0.6%. Yeah. If you send 4 messages in a cadence on LinkedIn, automated, all kind of template driven with bits of variables, you are talking about 0.6% response rate. So start with the gold standard, some rules on screen. I can send you this slide if you need it, but you start with the gold standard. Avoid this weird stuff of praising people in a weirdly and oddly generic way, and just go hyperhuman. You will get way better results. And if you're a salesperson, by the way, by going hyperhuman and delivering your target, your quota with hyperhuman, makes you AI proof. If you are using automation, salespeople, listen to me. If you are using automation to fill your pipeline right now, be aware that the AI tools for sales outreach are getting better and better and better. And if that, you're an SDR or BDM, and the majority of your opportunities are coming from automation, they will, or your company will, as much as you love that company and as much as they love you, If they can do it at a fraction of the price without you, it's a common sense business decision. So I'm not trying to frighten you. What I'm trying to say is it's logical. Why do we need a person running a robot if we can get the robot to actually do it for us and just plug that into a closer, into an account AE or something like that? We'll just plug them into an AE. That's my point. You could have infinite scale on AI agents, and those AI agents are just doing what you're doing. And to be honest with you, if you're using templates, you're not a million miles away from just being an expensive AI agent. Whereas you could go hyperhuman and outperform the AI agents, and then, you're irreplaceable. So think about that. Ultra human. There's a little bit of a structure there, simple structure you can do. Personalized hook at the beginning, business observation, and then an outcome or challenge question to start the conversation, to get the ball rolling. Then you move it to the next step of the conversation, which would be trying to get that conversation to carry on Zoom or Teams or whatever. So look, I'd thank you so much for joining me tonight. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to be doing more and more lives just because I enjoy them. It's a chance for me to share stuff with you in a smaller format. And also it helps me build trust with my network, because we are, and I'll just leave you with this, we are entering a time where we can't believe our eyes. We can't believe our ears. We can't believe people who are who they say they are because of frauds and scams and all this kind of stuff. We are in a low trust economy, and it's only going to get worse. And so we have to understand that when we're outreaching, when we're doing all of this stuff to drum up business and opportunity, we have to remember we are operating in a low trust economy. And so no trust, no conversation. So I'd leave you thinking about, and this is something I say to all my clients, how do we build trust before we message? How do we build familiarity before the message so the message lands on more receptive ears or receptive eyes? That's one of the biggest improvements you can do to your outreach. If people know you to some degree, they don't have to know your kids or any of that stuff. It doesn't have to be a depth. They have a little bit of trust is an advantage. And what are you doing? Salespeople, business owners, marketers, through your whole process, what are you doing to build a little bit of trust? Because it will take you a long way when it comes to outreach. Right. If you want that slide that I shared tonight, drop me a line, drop me a DM. I am a little bit behind with my DMs. We went crazy on Friday. We had 600 people on the live. It went berserk, and I'm trying to catch up with it. But have a good one. Have a great week. And at the end of the week, I'm doing a webinar about how to get 2 to 3 clients on LinkedIn. You'll find it on my profile. Go click sign up, and I'll see you on Friday.